Peregrine falcon is the largest resident falcon in the United Kingdom. It's about the size of a carrion crow, maybe a bit bigger, but much more chunky, compact and streamlined. It's a very attractive bird. The adults are a lovely slate grey on the back, and the breast is a lovely silky white with black barring across it. It's got a very fierce look about it, which is because of the head pattern. It's got a mustachioed stripe. And at the other end, the business end, it's got enormous yellow feet, which of course are its tools of the trade, because it takes birds almost exclusively in the air and takes birds from the size of a small goldcrest right up to ducks and beyond. It's well equipped for that because of course it is famously the fastest living creature on the planet.
Here at the cathedral today, and I'm talking to Granville Pictor about peregrines, and particularly the peregrines of Salisbury Cathedral. Granville, we regard you as our local peregrine expert. Tell me a bit about how you first became interested in peregrines.
Well, I took up bird watching, Phil, in the 70s, and like a lot of bird watchers, I was fascinated by birds of prey, and looking at the field guide, the peregrine just leapt off the page basically, and I thought I must see that bird, and I spent about a year looking for it. And of course in those days in southern England there were literally only a handful of pairs breeding in the UK, and I do recall seeing my first one on the North Devon coast. I can still picture it now, actually coming out from a cliff, circling around a couple of times and gliding away, and that was over 40 years ago.
Wow.
But it's still indelibly on my mind, and that's how I got hooked. And once you're hooked on peregrines, you never lose it.
And of course we're fortunate, there's many more peregrines in our skies these days. What is the national status? What is the national population of peregrines?
There were thought to be about 1,500 breeding pairs in the UK.
And of course in recent years we've seen more peregrines nesting in the urban environment. What sort of proportion of the population would that be?
It's reckoned to be possibly 15 to 20%. And I think that's because a lot of the normal coastal populations and crag populations, those territories are filled up. So all the spare birds are basically looking for territories elsewhere. And a place like the cathedral here is basically not a church as far as a peregrine is concerned, it's just a limestone tower. And it's ideal for peregrines.
Yeah, and of course, you know, as I said, we've got more peregrines in our skies than we have before. In fact, peregrines have had quite a challenging time over the past, well, up to 100 years ago.
They've had a checkered history, Phil, because before you had bird protection laws in the 1950s, a lot were shot by gamekeepers. And the other major problem, especially in southern England, was they're blessed with having rather attractive looking eggs. So they were very popular with egg collectors. And certainly on the Dorset, Sussex and Kent coast, I mean, they were farmed quite literally, systematically by egg collectors. There's a famous, or should I say infamous picture taken in 1940 on top of a Dorset cliff of a pile of 64 peregrine eggs taken that year. And that was every nest in Dorset, apart from one.
In the Second World War, I believe they were actually shot out of the skies to protect...
Yeah, that's true. They were basically shot out of the skies, again on the south coast mostly, because they were carrying messages back from the war front, basically.
The pigeons,
this is it, that's right, the pigeons. But numbers soon bounced back. And then, of course, you got to what is known as the pesticide problem in the 1950s, early 60s, when there was a huge amount of adult mortality because peregrines, being the top of the food chain, basically, were feeding on smaller birds which had ingested pesticides from coatings of seeds. So there's a huge amount of adult mortality. And at the same time, and it was a bit of a mystery for quite a long time, peregrines were laying eggs which were much thinner due to these pesticides, and when they were being incubated, quite a lot of the eggs actually broke. So in the 1950s, you had the double whammy, if you like, of adult mortality and low productivity.
But since that time, the population has managed to recover. And as you know, in 2014, we successfully encouraged them back to nest at Salisbury Cathedral. That was after an absence of 61 years. So there's records in the history books before 1953.
It is the most famous man-made structure used by peregrines in the UK. They came back in 2013, but didn't breed successfully until 2014, and of course they've been here ever since.
It's been a fantastic success story. Perhaps you could just give just your reflections on how that all started.
I was at home one day, and you gave me a call and said the cathedral guides had noticed a lot of activity on the south side of the tower there. Would I like to come along and meet you up there and see what's going on? And of course I said yes. We went up the spire, me with some trepidation on the very windy wooden stairs, and I can recall opening the door onto the south walkway, and there were 3 peregrine eggs actually laid on the walkway because there was no nest box in those days. They were cold. So sadly that attempt failed, but obviously we knew that they liked the south face, they would nest here. So in the autumn of that year we had a nest box built by the carpenters at the cathedral here, put it up, and the following March, to mix metaphors, the falcons took to it like a duck to water, so to speak. And from that day to the present, they bred every year.
We've had 15 chicks fledge over the years up until 2019.
That's right.
There must have been some highlights for you over those 6 years of breeding.
Well, they're all highlights because I'm a peregrine addict, but nonetheless, I suppose the most interesting year was 2017 when our resident bird laid 5 eggs, which was quite unusual because they normally lay only 3 or 4. Only one hatched for reasons we don't really know about. Which is a little bit sad, but we had a single bird about 3 weeks old, and then we got a call from the RSPB to say, would you like to adopt another bird? Because a brood of 3 had been orphaned, I think in Shropshire, where the 2 parents had been poisoned. So the RSPB arrived with another peregrine in a box, and you and I went up there, and I can recall it being put out there to meet its little sibling, and we waited anxiously. And about a half an hour later, the adult female came in with prey and fed the adopted chick, and we were just so excited. In that year, we had Spring Watch here, and it was all filmed, so it went nationwide. It
was, and I seem to recall that our peregrines here were actually voted the favourite bird family by Spring Watch viewers in the country.
Well, but of course.
Fantastic. And of course that year we put a GPS tag on the adult female, and that's given us a lot of information about local movements. But we also ring all of the chicks every year with colourings, and we've had some re-sightings of the chicks that have fledged from here.
Well, we've had 2 sightings. A male called Peter, they're all named here, ringed in 2014, was picked up, sadly shot, near Stockbridge in 2017, but a member of the public took it to the Hawk and Owl Conservancy in Andover. It was nursed back to health, released, and the following year, amazingly, because of the colour ring on its leg, it was found to be part of a nesting pair in Hampshire and had become a dad. And it's still there today, which is fantastic. And the only other sighting was a first-year bird photographed with one of these very modern cameras over Milton Keynes. That's about 100 miles away, I guess, to the east, flying over a nature reserve. And those are the only 2 sightings so far.
Fascinating, and of course we can hear the peregrines behind us now up on the tower. We've got successful breeding again this year. We know we've got 4 chicks. Fantastic time to visit the cathedral.
It is. For the next 2 or 3 weeks, anyone coming down to the cathedral and on the lawn in the close with a pair of binoculars will see some fantastic views of peregrines, both chicks and adults, on the cathedral. They'll hang around for about 2 or 3 weeks close to the cathedral spire. They'll be noisy. They'll be flying out to meet the parents bringing in food. They'll be flying around together, practicing their flight skills, dog fighting.
Granville, it's been great talking to you. Thank you very much. So, yeah, fantastic time to come to Salisbury Cathedral, and when you're here, look upwards and you may just see our new peregrine tricks from this year.